microphone, please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Carolyn Louise Deakins, Grimes Hill, Gilda Carey Deakins, and it's Deakins.
Ma'am, what was the last part of what you said? You said your name is...
You wanted it all again?
Well, I wasn't sure.
And Deakins is the last thing because I changed back to my maiden name.
So the last part of what you said after Deakins, that's part of your name or that was something else?
Yes. My name is Carolyn Louise Deakins.
Okay, and how do you spell Deakins?
Deakins, Judge.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, Ms. Deakins.
Good morning.
Can you please tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where you currently reside?
At present, I live in Leesburg, Florida.
Okay. How long have you lived there, Ms. Deakins?
I bought a home there in September of last year.
Okay.
Soon be a year.
Okay. And where did you move when you moved to Leesburg?
Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay. And how long have you been were you living in Kentucky?
For the past 24 years.
Okay. Is that where you were raised?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you have family back there?
I have grandsons, 2 sons, a daughter, a grandbaby, 4 sisters and 2 brothers, and my dad.
Okay. And are you currently working?
Part-time.
Okay. Where do you work?
I work for Dairy Queen part-time.
Dairy Queen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you do anything else in the community?
Actually, I do. I mentor and help support 4 women from the Healing Hands place.
What is Healing Hands?
It's for battered women. It's for drug addicts that want to get clean. It's women with children, with no homes. Whatever I can do to help, that's what I do.
And why do you do that work?
Because a long time ago, somebody did that for me. I'm sorry.
Ms. Deakins, you don't have to apologize.
It's
She'll get you some tissues.
I'm just grateful to be alive because the kind of life we led back then, I shouldn't even be here talking to you people.
Okay. Well, now we're going to get to that, okay? Is this the first time you've lived in Florida?
No.
Okay.
I lived in Fort Lauderdale for many years.
Okay. You remember when approximately you moved down here?
1982.
Okay. And how long did you live here that time?
Up until 1998.
Okay.
I went back and forth to Kentucky a couple of times, but my primary residence was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Why did you move back to Kentucky?
Actually, it got to be monotonous, and I got tired. I just wasn't done. You know what I mean? I would go back home, try to get clean, try to get my head right, but nothing seemed to work, and I always winded up right back in Florida.
Now, Ms. Deakins, when you say it was monotonous and you weren't done, what were you not done with?
Drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
You can't help somebody that doesn't want to be done. You know, you have to be willing to be over it and not want that kind of life anymore.
So, at some point, did you come back down here in 1998?
Yes, I did. I came back here, and it was winter up there, but it was spring down here, in February and March.
February, March of 1998 is when you came back?
Yes, I came back here.
Okay. Do you know a woman, or did you know a woman by the name of Brenda Woodard?
I knew Brenda Woodard very well.
And how did you know Brenda?
Brenda and I were introduced through some mutual friends who were gay, and so we met. We hung out a few times. We didn't constantly hang out, and over the years, the last few years I was there, we would meet maybe once or twice a week on the streets while we were working, and chit chat. I actually never hung around with Brenda on a continuous until I came back down here in 98. And then she and I hooked up and we stayed together until the time we got arrested.
So I want to break all that down.
Okay.
But first I want to show you something, okay, and see if you recognize it. Your Honor, may I approach the witness, please? Sure. Deakins, do you recognize this photograph?
That's Brenda.
And does this photograph accurately reflect the woman that you knew back in the 1990s?
Yeah.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense would move into evidence what has previously been marked for identification as M.
Defense M, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Defense M will be received without objection as defense M for identification will be received without objection as defense 1.
Do you want to mark it?
Sure.
Can you see that, Ms. Deakins?
Yes, sir.
Everybody else? Okay. This is Brenda Woodard, correct?
It is.
Okay.
This has been the days when we didn't care much about anything other than drinking and getting high and making money in order to do that. Getting high, and it was our way of life. It was actually the only life we knew. Everything else didn't matter.
Let me ask you a couple questions. You said that you moved back down here in 1998.
I did.
You knew Brenda before that.
I did.
Okay. Do you remember when you first met Miss Woodard?
It must have been in early 90s, maybe 92, 93.
Okay, and where do you remember where you met her?
Yeah, actually I do, on Federal Highway.
Okay. That's also known as US 1?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Particular area that you hung out with? Or
Anywhere
met?
between 17th Street Causeway and State Road 84.
Okay.
It was where the known hookers went.
Okay. So you met Brenda in the area where all the other hookers
I met
were?
Brenda. She was basically somebody that, there was 3 or 4 girls that basically Brenda watched out for them while they did what they did. They're prostitutes. And she drove them around, took care of whatever they needed to be their backup. That's when I first met Brenda. That's what she did.
Okay.
But
So-
those changed.
What changed?
First, she lost her car. She actually got more addicted to drugs than she really wanted to.
Okay.
And it became her lifestyle also.
And that was your lifestyle, Ms. Deakins?
It was. I was a prostitute.
And what kind of drugs were you doing?
Anything we could get our hands on, the truth be known. Mostly crack and snorting cocaine and weed and drinking. That's what we did every day.
Did you have anything that you preferred to drink?
I was a bush beer drinker myself.
Okay. So you knew Brenda in the 80s, is that correct?
Late 80s, yeah,
Okay, and then you left and went back to Kentucky? Is that...
I did.
Okay. And then you
It
came
seemed
back...
like every time I got out of jail, I would go back to Kentucky thinking it would work, but never did until 1998.
So when you talked about this area of Federal Highway, where all the hookers hung out,
Yeah.
was that an area that most people knew that's what you guys were doing there?
Oh, absolutely. That's where the known hookers were. And that main street and 1 block over, to stay off the highway as much as possible, we would be a block over and you would see somebody and they would wave at you like, let's hook up. And so you would travel the other side, go down the block so that the police couldn't see you and you'd get in the car.
Did you ever get arrested during that time?
Several.
Okay. Have you ever been convicted of a felony, Ms. Deakins?
Many.
Okay. Do you know how many?
6 or 7.
Okay. Have you ever been to prison?
Several times.
Okay. How about the county jail?
Oh, numerous amounts of times.
Okay. So let's talk about law enforcement. They would see you girls on the street?
Absolutely. They would run us off. And don't get me wrong. There were a couple of cops that they did nothing but watch out for us because, we'd been in jail so many times. I think they got tired and they watched out for us.
And at some point you left and you came back. Did you, in 1998, you think February or March, did you meet up with Brenda again?
It was a couple of days. No, from March to, I guess, the end of May, probably the end of May, because I didn't even know she had an apartment or anything. I just happened to run into her on US 1. And she said she needed to go to the store, and I said, well, I'm headed to the drug dealer. So she said...
You're headed where?
To the drug dealer.
Okay. Why did she want to go to the store?
I guess she needed to get meat. Brenda was a booster.
What's a booster?
Yeah. She would boost meat, steaks, high-dollar meat, and the drug dealer would trade it for drugs.
And how often did you see her doing that?
Numerous amounts of times.
Okay.
You know. We never actually hung out, per se, all the time. We would see each other on the street. We would speak. Maybe take a couple of hits together, you know, wherever we could. I had one specific place I used to go to, my friend's house. A couple of friends, actually. And that's where I would go. And Brenda and I never, per se, hung out on a regular until... I met her right before we were arrested in June.
Okay, so that's when she had the apartment.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that. So you're talking about you would go to friends' houses. Were you homeless?
Absolutely.
Okay. And
I had a car, though.
Okay, so you would sleep in your car?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know if Brenda was homeless?
At the time, I did.
Okay.
I thought she was, but she had an apartment.
And do you know when she moved into the
I
apartment?
don't.
Okay. And before you spent that time with Brenda in the apartment, you said you saw her frequently, once in a while on the streets?
Yeah.
And what was she doing on the streets? What did you observe her doing?
Brenda was a prostitute, too.
Okay.
When Brenda couldn't get meat to make her way, she turned to prostitution. It was quick and easy money. Everybody knew it. So that's what we became.
And during that time, did you do drugs with her?
Yes, on occasion.
What kind of drugs were you doing?
Crack.
With her? And
And
did you
beer.
I'm sorry?
Beer.
Okay.
We drank a lot.
Okay. Do you remember what Brenda liked to drink?
Coke 45 malt liquor. 16 ounces.
Okay. How'd you guys carry those around?
In a sippy cup.
What does that
In
look
a
like?
big gulp that you get
Okay.
from 7-Eleven. You could always tell the girls that were hookers, and that's not being disrespectful, but it's the truth, because we all had a big gulp.
And,
So we could carry our beer in it, or our iced tea, or whatever your choice was.
and when you would see Brenda before you spent time in her apartment, would she always have this big gulp
Absolutely.
out the cup?
Brenda's drug of choice was drinking, for real.
Do you remember what she would like to drink?
Coke 45.
And what is Colt 45?
It's a beer. It's a malt liquor, actually. It's stronger than just a regular beer.
Okay. So explain to me what a normal day would be like before you guys moved.
Well,
you stayed at her
I can't really tell you what a normal day would be like, because days run into days. You know what I mean? You know, you're up for 5-6 days at a time. You go from one day to day to day to day. And your main objective is to make money to get the drugs or get the drink, whatever it was you were accustomed to.
And these
So I can't not pinpoint for you day after day what day we did this or what day we did that, because my mind doesn't work that good anymore.
And did you and Brenda ever talk about, I mean, you said you had children. Did she ever talk to you about her daughter or her family?
Never knew Brenda had any children, period.
You didn't have those?
I didn't know she had an older daughter. And I just found out Brenda was pregnant at the apartment.
So at some point you find out that Brenda has an apartment, right, in Fort Lauderdale?
Yeah.
Okay, how did you find that out?
Because Brenda came down the street, I was getting ready to get into my car, and because I'd been out working for about 3 hours. And she said, I need to go to the store. And I said, well, I'm headed over to Broward. It was off of Broward Boulevard. It's where we used to go. And everybody used to say they're going to Broward. So I said, I'm off to Broward. She said, well, let's make a stop and I'll go with you. Okay, so off we went. When we got back in the car, when Brenda got back in the car, I asked her, I said, because I was tired, wore out. I told her, Brenda, you drive. And she said, okay, I'll drive. So we went to drug dealers, and she bought dope.
Did she give the drug dealer steaks? Is that one of those?
She gave him a bag, which it was all meat, plus my money, and rested out the car, and she got the drugs from the drug dealer. We pulled off, was headed to the apartment.
Okay.
The car stalled on the bridge,
What bridge, do you remember?
coming back toward the apartment from Broward. We let it sit there a couple of minutes. It started back up. We went around the corner like this, put it in park, and sirens went off. And that was the day we got arrested.
So that would have been June 6, 1998.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me back up a little bit.
Go ahead.
At that point, Brenda had her apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And were you spending time in her apartment?
I was there for a few days, a couple of days.
And that all day, every day during
Yes,
that
ma'am.
period? Okay.
When we weren't working.
And working means what?
Prostitution.
Okay. So
Trying to make money.
what did that apartment look like?
Not much of anything. There wasn't anything there but a refrigerator, a stove, and a mattress. There was no furniture.
Was there any food in the apartment?
No. Food wasn't our big interest.
What is it that you and Brenda would do in the apartment when you weren't working?
We'd get high
And what were you getting?
and
high?
drink. You know, drink is a whole lot cheaper. So we would buy at least a 12-pack so we could sit down and relax for a little longer.
You
It
mean
was-
if you had the
if
booze?
we had something to drink, we wouldn't have to be out so many times.
Okay. And you said a 12-pack. Is that you would have a 12-pack or you would split a 12-pack?
Oh, I don't drink the kind of beer she drinks, so I had my own.
Okay. So she was drinking the Colt 45?
I was drinking Bush. I always drank Bush beer.
Okay.
I don't
And
drink
then-
anything anymore. Thank God.
So at some point during that week, did you find out that Brenda was pregnant?
Brenda went into the bathroom and she got sick. And I thought she was drug sick. And so I still had a little bit, you know. She had her stuff and I had mine. I still had some. And I asked her, I said, Brenda, are you drug sick? Here, take some of mine. Here, take this piece of crack is exactly what I said to her. And she said, no, it ain't drugs. I'm pregnant. And I thought, oh, my God. And then that's when we kind of got into a little bit of a, it's my life and I'll do what I want to. And I was trying to tell her, you know, Brenda, you can't do this. You're pregnant. Babies. It's hard on them. She didn't care at that point.
Okay. So even after she told you that she was pregnant, did you see her continuing to use
Absolutely.
alcohol?
Absolutely. Drugs, alcohol, weed, cigarettes, anything she could get her hands on. She was just like me. That was our daily routine. That's how we lived our life.
Was it one of the kind of a lifestyle where one day just went into the next day and you were just surviving and doing what you had to do?
One day led into another, into weeks. I was up one time for 12 days straight. I was to the point of hallucination. It becomes your way of life, and that's all you know.
So you're a recovering addict, isn't that
I
correct,
am.
Ms. Deakins?
25 years.
Okay. And based on the observations that you made of Brenda with her drugs and alcohol use, do you believe she was a drug and alcoholic during that time?
I know she was. I don't have to think. I know she was.
Okay. So did you know what Brenda was going to do with the baby?
Yes, I did. She told me when she told me she was pregnant, and I rant and raved a little bit. She said, "Don't worry about it. It's all took care of. I have a lawyer, and the baby's going up for adoption, and so I'm not going to have to worry about it." And that's how she felt. She didn't want it. Nikolas, I'm sorry, but that's how it was.
Based on the conversations that you had with her and the things that you observed, did it appear that she cared about the baby that was growing in her belly?
No. No.
The most important thing was the drugs and the alcohol?
It was how we lived our life at that time.
So now let's go to that June 6th, 1998, when the lights and sirens went on. Tell us what happened that day.
Well, when the sirens came on, Brenda still had the baggies in her hand, and she reached behind the seat like this and put it in with the beer because we had stopped and bought beer. And the lights went on, and they get out of the car and told us to get out of the car. We're being arrested because they know they saw us just buy drugs at the drug dealer's house. And I told them, you didn't see me buy shit. I'm sorry. You didn't see me buy anything. I was in the car. Brenda bought it. You saw her do it, but you're together, so I saw you're under arrest for drugs. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I went to the police just like this.
Oh, I think we're getting a little off topic here. Let's ask another.
Well, no, she's talking about the arrest.
Yeah. And I showed him that I didn't have anything on me.
So
I didn't understand why I got arrested.
So, Ms. Deakins, you just stood up and you were pulling
I
your
pulled out
pockets
my pockets and showed him that I didn't have any drugs.
Okay. Did you guys get arrested?
Absolutely.
Okay. And what happened after you got arrested?
I went to jail.
Okay. How long were you in jail?
I done another year and 4 months. I didn't get out.
So you went to jail and then
I went to court the next morning and they sentenced me up to a year.
Okay. And what were you convicted of?
Possession,
Of what?
cocaine.
Okay. What was it that you and Brenda were going to do with that cocaine?
We're going to smoke it.
And what were you and Brenda going to do with the booze in the car?
I'll drink it. That's what we did.
Now, this is after you know that she's pregnant, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you ever hear Brenda talking to the adoption attorney on the phone or in
A
person?
couple of times, yeah, because she called him because, she couldn't get any meat or we didn't have the money. She would call this attorney and he would give her money. And a couple of times I heard her talking to them.
What would you guys do with that money?
Again, we would buy dope and beer.
Okay. So, if you hadn't been staying at Brenda's apartment, would you have been sleeping on the streets?
No, I had a car.
Okay. After you were arrested with Brenda on June 6, 1998, did you ever see her again?
No, ma'am. I never saw any, and I never met Nikolas. I went home in 99 when I got out of jail, and I never looked back. I never looked on Facebook. I never knew anything of Brenda's life or even what the baby was, because I didn't know what the baby was at that time. I didn't even know it was a boy until I heard from the district attorney a couple of years ago about Brenda Woodard and what had happened. That was my first clue about Brenda's life since we separated.
Now, are you sure it was the district attorney that contacted you?
I'm not sure who it was,
Okay.
to be quite honest.
Okay.
A detective, that's all I can tell you.
Okay. Now, while you were in jail, did you ever contact the adoption attorney?
Yeah, I did.
How did you have the number for the adoption
Well,
attorney?
because when girls are running together, they always give each other numbers, in case something drastic happens so we can get in touch. But I was mad at her, so yeah, I called the attorney and told him everything. The drug dealer, where it was, the whole shop.
Why were you mad at her?
Because I got arrested for something that wasn't even, actually it was mine, but at that time I wasn't going to admit it,
And do you know what happened to Brenda? Did she get out?
I found out later, yes, she did get out.
I'm going to show you another document. One moment, please. May I approach the witness, Your Honor? Sure. This is this. Ms. Deakins, who is Carolyn Carey?
Me.
Okay. So,
I had 3 different aliases.
okay.
I had Carolyn Carey, Carolyn Deakins, Carolyn Gilda, but they were all my name because I was married that many times.
So I want to show you a document. Do you recognize this document?
I have my glasses on, so I have to hold it way out here. Yes, I do remember this. I did call.
So tell me what this document is.
It's when I called the attorney and told him that Brenda was drugging and that she took my car, she hotwired my car, she stole my car.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense would like to move into evidence what has previously been marked as for identification, defense N, and then it would also like to tender to the court business record certification. This document is from the adoption records. So this is the certification, and this is the document.
No objection.
You said no objection?
No objection.
Are you gonna mark the certification?
Yes. Ms. Bashman, you want to just give me that? Okay.
I'm sorry?
She's going to turn. Yep.
Without objection, defense N will be received as defense 2. And 1 second, Your Honor.
The certification, Your Honor, would be marked for V as in Victor. Defense 4, V as in Victor.
Right, defense 4V will be received without objection as defense 3.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
Sure.
Ms. Deakins, can you see this document in front of you?
Yeah, it's the same document you just showed me.
Okay, and it's identified you as the caller, and your name then was Carolyn Carey?
It was.
Okay. When's the first time you returned to Broward County, Ms. Deakins?
The very first time?
No,
Or
since your arrest in 1998.
to yesterday?
Okay. You've never stepped foot back in Broward?
Never.
Why not?
Too many ghosts. Lots of demons. Tragic lifestyle. Drugs and alcohol. The way I lived. I couldn't do it anymore.
Can you have a moment, please, Your Honor?
You may.
Ms. Deakins, you had mentioned earlier that Brenda preferred to drive the girls around.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know why?
Oh, yeah, it's quicker than walking.
Right.
I mean, just seriously, most of the girls out there didn't have a pot to pee in, a window to throw it out of. They were on foot. Brenda had a car. Everybody was going to hang out with Brenda because they could get back and forth quicker. Okay. Did I know those people? I saw them on the streets, but I never knew them.
Okay. And
they were just working girls.
did she prefer to boost as opposed to
Absolutely. That was the main thing she did.
Do you know why she preferred to boost stakes as opposed to prostitution?
Brenda was gay. She didn't like men.
Did Brenda ever tell you who the father was of the baby?
Brenda didn't even know.
Your Honor, I have no further questions. Thank you, Ms. Deakins.
Thank you.
You want to do that?
Good afternoon, Ms. Woodard. Or, excuse me.
Miss
Ms.
Deakins.
Deakins, I'm sorry. You're reading Woodard for a while. Ms.
Not even.
Ms. Deakins, you said two different things in your testimony at different times. I'm not sure if it was just a misstatement or not.
Probably.
That's okay. You said originally that you met Miss Woodard 92 or 93, and then I think you were asked a question if it was the late 80s, and you said yes to that as well. Which one was it?
Yep, I was in the night. Yeah, that was a mistake. Yes, I met Brenda in the 90s. In the 80s, from 82 until I think around 86, I didn't work in the prostitution. I was a dancer at Dollhouse on Federal Highway.
Okay, so you met...
I met her in the 90s.
Okay.
Originally.
All right. So 92 or 93, you met her. You'd see her once a week or so?
Sometimes a week, once a week, sometimes it could be a couple of weeks, just depending on how the girls were and how they worked. It was like a revolving door. We would meet, but we never were hangout buddies. She had her crowd and I had mine.
Okay. And you didn't know that she had a daughter that was born in 86, so she
No,
was
I did not.
4 to 6 years old or around then?
No, I did not.
Okay. And even in 1998, when you were living at the apartment, not living at the apartment, when you were sleeping over at the apartment for...
Yeah, because I wasn't living there.
Right, just for a few days you were there,
Yeah.
you said, right?
Yes.
And there was no sign of a about 11 or 12-year-old girl, was there?
There wasn't any clothes in the apartment. The only thing that was there was a mattress. We didn't even have a sheet on the bed, and a refrigerator and a stove. It was like they gave her the apartment, but she just never moved in. It was a place to hang out and do drugs and drink.
Okay. And the call that you made, I guess is it still on the camera?
No, they've moved it.
Okay. All right. Is it on now?
It is now.
Okay. So it says Carolyn Carey called from jail, referenced Brenda Woodard. And so this is the time of this arrest, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the June 6th,
Yes, that's
1998, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and so you were still in jail and Brenda was out?
I believe so.
Okay.
Because I never came out.
Okay.
They sent me directly to prison.
And this is a message, right? That you.
It is a message.
Okay. And is it correct, the message?
Yes, Brenda broke into my car, and the car actually was in my husband's name because I was married at that time,
And when did she do that?
after she got out of jail.
Well, the message is that she advised she left her car across the street from Brenda's, and Brenda took it upon herself to break into it and wire the ignition and use the car. Was that for using the car to buy drugs?
No,
Okay.
no, because I was already in jail, and I called my husband, who was Patrick Carey at that time, and I told him that I was in jail, and so he put an APB stolen thing out on the car.
You said, and you showed the jury about how when the police stopped the car, they asked you if you had any drugs,
Yes, they did.
and you pulled out your pocket to show that there was nothing in there.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that you pulled out that you actually said you couldn't lie to the police, and you pulled out the plastic baggie from your right front pocket?
No, sir.
Okay. You know why the police report says that?
It might say that, but that's not what happened.
Okay. So what the police report says is not accurate?
To be quite honest with you, that day is kind of a blur, but I know where the drugs were. They were in the paper bag and behind the seat.
And like you said, the day was a blur, or
Every day was a blur if you want to know the truth about it.
so it
Because
could
all
have
we
been
did
that
was
way.
drink and drug.
It could have been that the police officer was right when he said that you said you couldn't lie and you pulled out the plastic baggie from the right front pocket, right?
It could be.
Okay. And when you called the lawyer's office, was it a male lawyer or a female lawyer?
It was a man.
And you learned that it's not a male lawyer, it's a female lawyer that was taking care of the adoption, right?
I learned that later.
Okay, so you're incorrect about it being a male lawyer too, right?
I guess so. Everything is just crooked and backwards when you're in that state of mind.
Okay,
I honestly thought it was a man.
and when you were in the jail, does the jail let you keep your phone numbers that you collect from other women?
It all goes in your property, and yes, you can ask for certain things out of your property.
And you asked for the phone number to this adoption lawyer so you
I
could
did.
call up and say, Brenda is still using drugs.
I was mad.
Okay. And you were mad because weren't you buying drugs?
Yeah, of course we were.
Okay, so you got caught buying drugs, right?
We both did.
But why are you mad at her?
Well, I think we both should have been in jail.
Well, you both got arrested, didn't you?
Yeah, but, if I'm going to have to do a year, why didn't she have to do a year? Quite honest with you, I think she turned over on the drug dealer.
So did she ever tell you what the circumstances of her pregnancy were?
What do you mean? What's the circumstances? She's pregnant.
Okay, all you knew.
Did I know if it was rape or if it was a trick baby? Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
No, she didn't.
Well, didn't you tell me something differently before in deposition?
It was a trick baby. That's what I thought. Yes, that's what I told you.
So that's different than what you're telling me now.
It's not different. No, it's not different. I considered it a trick baby because that's what we did. Now, if that's wrong, it's wrong. But to me, it was a trick baby, and so did Brenda think it was a trick baby. Brenda never said she was raped, so I'm taking it that it was a trick baby.
So when you said in your deposition that it was a trick baby, everybody knew that, and I asked you, how do you know that to be true? And your answer was, because she told me. That answer was not correct?
Yeah, it might be. I honestly cannot remember everything we talked about. It's what it was. We were drug addicts.
Just like you can't remember whether or not you had the drugs on you or didn't have it on you, correct?
Yeah, correct.
All right, thank you very much.
Can I go now?
I'll let you know, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Deacon, in the late 1990s, were you a drug addict?
And an alcoholic. I was a dedicated drug addict, dedicated every day to getting high.
And is that what you were doing with Brenda?
Absolutely. That's the only reason Brenda and I hung out,
Now,
was to get high. We were not personal friends, per se.
so you didn't go to the movies?
We didn't go to movies, we didn't go to dinner, we didn't buy pizza together, we didn't take walks on the beach. We were drug addicts.
So I know that you said you've been convicted of 7 felonies,
I have,
but you have been arrested how many times?
I don't,
Do you even know?
probably 40, 45. It could be even more.
And do those arrests kind of verge into each other, one arrest to another arrest?
Yep.
Okay. But you know you were arrested that day with Brenda on June 6, 1990.
I know that it was June 6th.
Okay. And it was because both you and her were in possession of cocaine.
Exactly.
Okay. And even though she may have had it in her pocket or you may have had it in your pocket,
We were both, it was our drugs. It was both our drugs. It was our money, her meat. It was our stuff.
and what were you going to do with that?
I was fixing to get high, real good and high, because we had 5 rocks.
So I understand that you were mad at Brenda,
I was.
okay, and you called the adoption attorney.
I did.
Okay. Are the things that you
I just was being pissed off, you know, mean. I wanted her to go back to jail too.
But were you lying about the things you were telling those attorneys?
No.
Ms. Deakins, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, now ma'am, you're excused. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take a recess for lunch. I'm going to ask that you please be back at